Good morning, students. So we'll be starting with the second part of your first lesson. In this part, we'll be covering the asexual reproduction in living organisms. That we'll cover is what are the targeted learning outcomes for this video. You need to recall and revise the difference between asexual and sexual reproduction. The second thing that we'll be covering is what is the choice mode of reproduction for an organism and which mode of reproduction it prefers with respect to its habitat, the conditions of its habitat. Then the main topic of this video, which are the major types of asexual reproduction in organisms. And finally, the significance of asexual reproduction for the organism. Also the commercial applications of asexual reproduction. So significance for the organism and significance for us. So we'll start with the first topic, asexual versus sexual reproduction. Now these differences you've already completed in much detail in your class 10 syllabus. So I'll request you to revise it from there. If in case of any doubt, you can always ask me. The second topic that we have to do is the factors on which the mode of reproduction depends. The first factor we'll be doing is the level of organization. You'll see later on in this video that the simple organisms prefer asexual modes of reproduction while the complex organisms prefer sexual mode of reproduction. The reason being, for simple organisms, because of their simplicity, the level of energy production that they are capable of is very less. Because of their simplicity, they are not able to produce a lot of energy. While for sexual reproduction, input cost is very high. The plant has to make gamete, perform meiosis, ensure fertilization, and then ensure the development of the seed. All these input costs are not affordable for the simple organisms. So simple organisms prefer asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction, on the other hand, is does not require all that input cost, one, and second, in one go a lot many number of progenies can be produced, while in sexual reproduction the number of progenies produced is much limited. The second factor is habitat. You'll see that simple organisms prefer to perform asexual reproduction when the habitat is conducive or favorable for them. Resources are in plenty, it undergoes asexual reproduction and produces a large number of progenies. During adverse habitat condition, it prefers to perform sexual reproduction. Why, we'll be doing in detail later on. Then the third factor is internal physiology. We come to the main topic that we have to deal with, the types of asexual reproduction. First, we'll do for unicellular organisms. Among the unicellular organisms, the most common type of asexual reproduction is binary fission. During binary fission, a unicellular organism divides into two cells. Both of these cells are very similar to each other in size as well as other features. Now, the most common example that you have studied about for binary fission was amoeba. But other than amoeba, which performs a simple binary fission, simple means there is no specific direction. Since amoeba does not have a specific shape, no matter where it divides from, in which direction it divides, it will form two similar cells. Then we have longitudinal. This also you had studied in trypanosoma. Here I give you another example of euglena. Then the third would be transverse, which is performed by paramecium. So binary fission on the basis of direction can be simple, longitudinal and transverse. Then the second type of division is multiple fission. This you have studied in plasmodium. In plasmodium, the nucleus will undergo divisions, repeated divisions to form many nuclei. Each of these nuclei will surround itself with a small amount of cytoplasm, and once that is done, and cell membrane for each of the nuclei is formed, the parent cell will burst, releasing more than 15 to 20 plasmodium simultaneously. So in multiple fission, large number of cells are formed due to division of one cell. This is a special type of reproduction performed by amoeba, sporulation. This is performed in unfavorable condition. We just studied that under unfavorable condition, mode of survival becomes imperative. बहुत ज़रूरी होता है कि कुछ ऐसा करे कि organism adverse condition में survive कर जाए. Later on it can resume its normal lifestyle. So under unfavorable condition, amoeba undergoes encystation. In this, the first step that occurs is amoeba withdraws its pseudopodia. It gets converted into a very compact spherical shape. This spherical shape gets surrounded by a wall which is 3-layered and very hard. This 3-layered wall is known as cyst. Now in this state, it will survive through the unfavorable condition. Throughout the unfavorable condition, and when we say unfavorable condition, मतलब उसके पास resources कम है. It has less amount of food, it has less amount of water. So under unfavorable condition, it survives in this encysted condition. Once the favorable conditions return, this amoeba, which is trapped inside the cyst, will undergo multiple fission. We just studied multiple fission. The nucleus will undergo multiple divisions. Large number of nuclei will be formed. Each of these nuclei will take up some amount of cytoplasm, form cell membrane for itself, and a number of small amoeba will be found inside the cyst. Now these small amoeba are known as pseudopodiospores. Pseudopodia and spores. So pseudopodiospores. Once this process is done, the cyst will burst and the little amoeba will be released and they'll grow up to their standard size. So even though it is a mode of survival, a technique for survival in an unfavorable condition, yet the resultant is that a large number of amoeba are produced from single amoeba. So we can also consider it as a mode of reproduction. We continue with the modes of asexual reproduction, this time in multicellular organism. We'll start from the simplest. The first multicellular organism is algae. In algae, zoospores are formed. These are motile spores. We've done this. The prefix zoo stands for animals. So animal-like spores, or the spores which have flagella and therefore show movement. So motile. Example, Chlamydomonas. Then the next group is fungi. Among fungi, we'll be doing two types of spores, zygospores and conidia. Now, zoospores and zygospores are formed inside the mycelium of the fungi. So we say that these are endogenously produced. Zygospore, unlike zoospore, is non-motile because it does not have flagella. And if you recall, zygospores are formed inside the sporangium, and the structure we have done in Rhizopus and Mucor, the bread mold. The second type is conidia. Conidia are again non-motile and they are found in chain, but they are formed exogenously. To understand exogenously, imagine that you have a ribbon in your hand and you are cutting from the one end small pieces of the ribbon. So conidia is produced from the mycelium by cutting off small spores at the end. So it is not produced inside the sporangium or inside the mycelium. It is formed by cutting off ends of the mycelium. It is very common in penicillium. Other examples are Puccinia, the rust fungi. Now, there is one special type of fungi which is unicellular, that is known as yeast. Now, this special fungi performs a special type of reproduction known as budding. Since it is unicellular, budding means that the cell will form a protrusion and this protrusion will get detached from the parent cell and develop into a new organism. So a cell is dividing to form two new cells. both of which are forming new organism. So how is this different from binary fission? Binary fission was also the same. The cell was dividing into two cells and each cell was acting as a new organism. The difference here is that in binary fission, the two cells formed are almost equal size, while in budding, the two cells formed are different in sizes. The parent cell is much larger in size than the daughter cell formed. One more difference is that in yeast, after budding, it may happen that the daughter cells do not detach, and while staying on the parent cell, while staying attached to the parent cell, they develop into a new organism, keep on growing, so much so that they can form their own buds while staying attached with the parent cell. So it is very common to see a chain of cells attached to each other when you are viewing yeast slides. The next group is the animal group Porifera. Porifera, again gemmules are formed. You'll realize later that gemmules are not actually modes of reproduction. They are again modes of surviving adverse condition, as we had seen in sporulation in amoeba. So example is sponges, Coelenterata, Hydra, budding. You've already studied this. I'll request you again to go back to your class 10th book if you've forgotten this. In platyhelminthes, fragmentation and regeneration. So flatworms, a part of their body detaches by accident and then it regenerates into a new organism. Okay, now I want you to refer to your NCERT textbooks. See these figures, figure 1.2 A and B. You need to practice drawing these figures for your theory exams. And the figures 1.3 and 1.4 can be asked both in your theory and your practical exams. You only have to identify and label them.